Good morning, boys and girls. We are on to chapter 28 of Front Desk. Anyway, where we left off, Mia was a little discouraged. She got a C minus on her essay, and she's starting to wonder if this essay contest about winning the motel in Vermont is really a realistic thing. Lupe is kind of giving her some encouragement, but of course, Lupe doesn't want her to move if that were to happen. So, but I was thinking about some of the different problems that are going on in the book right now. And, we often talk about that climax and in the different and the problem of the story. But as we all know, as readers and writers, there are multiple problems in a story. So I was just thinking in the top of my head of a couple things that are going on right now that are different problems, kind of all related, but there's the Mr. Yao situation with him being mean to a lot of people. There's that writing essay thing about getting a motel in Vermont, and she has to win a essay contest. Then there's like that friendship with Lupe, and that's kind of developing. And then that whole thing with Jason. So we got a lot of stuff going on. Let's see where it takes us. Chapter 28. When you move schools as many times as I have, you start to think of everyone as temporary. Friends come and go. You might have a best friend, but in the back of your mind, she's not going to be there. You'll change schools or she'll change schools, and that'll be that. For years, I told myself that was okay. That was just the way it was. Kind of like replacing a toothbrush. Sure, you might like your toothbrush a lot, but sooner or later, you have to replace it. You get a new toothbrush. It might feel strange and uncomfortable at first, but then you get used to it. I guess I never thought about how the toothbrush might feel. I never thought that toothbrush would miss me. I was walking through the motel, still thinking about Lupe, when my dad waved me over to room 8. Look what a customer left on the table. I stepped into the room and saw a $5 bill and 3 $1 bills lying on the table along with a note. To the little girl who checked us in, keep doing a great job. $8, my dad exclaimed. You know what that means? I smiled. Chinese people believe that if you receive $8, it's good luck. That's because the word for the number 8, ba, rhymes with the word for prosperity, fa. All right, now I know 2 more words, ba and fa. All right. It was such a nice surprise that I went back to the front office to write the customers a thank you note. As I got their registration card out and copied down the address, it briefly crossed my mind that maybe I should stop. Given the grade I had just gotten in English, did I really know what I was doing? But then I thought about Lupe and how she said, you can't win if you don't play. I now had $8 more to play with. $8 that I just dropped down from the sky, I had to say thank you. Went over to Mrs. T's room to try to borrow a dictionary. Mrs. T was always reading. With her cat eyeglasses, she sat by the pool and plowed through at least 2 newspapers and a magazine a day. Not only did Mrs. T have a dictionary, but she was delighted to lend me hers. It was a massive book, almost as thick as the yellow pages. It wasn't just a dictionary either. It had something called a thesaurus, too. A thesaurus, Mrs. T said, was a list of words that meant the same thing as other words. You might trade them freely, like you can trade $1 for 8 Chinese renminbi. I carried Mrs. T's nifty dictionary thesaurus over to the front office and started composing my letter. Here we go. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Miller, thank you so much for the $8 tip, along with the kind note. It helped. It made my day, and I was having a bad day. I got a bad grade in school. It was so bad that I was thinking about giving up on something. But then 2 things happened. My friend from school said something nice to me, and I got your note and a tip. I think that's a sign, don't you? My parents are big on signs. I'm not, especially if they are bad. But I like the good ones. Thanks for giving me a good sign. And thanks for staying at the Cala Vista. I hope you'll come again soon. Sincerely, Mia Tang, assistant manager. Oh my. I worked with Mrs. T's thick dictionary thesaurus, trading words, looking things up, and learning phrases like big, on, and made my day, crossing things out and trying things on until at last I was satisfied with my letter. I copied the letter onto a clean sheet of paper, sealed the envelope, and placed it in the outgoing mail pile. So, boys and girls, I just want to show you though. See this? Right here, you can see the letter here. And if you notice carefully, she crossed things out. So she was doing revising like we should be doing. And this was just a thank you letter. So it shows you revising and editing is all part of the writing process. Anyway, I continue. I worked with where was I? Oh, then I had another idea. If Mr. and Mrs. Miller were willing to give me a tip, maybe other guests would be as well. Who knew? Maybe if I saved up, I could have enough to enter the essay contest. I called up Lupe. That's a great idea, she said. You should totally do it. Lupe said everyone was giving out tips in restaurants, even her dad. If he did an extra good job, he got a tip from a customer. Except Mr. Yao, of course. Mr. Yao never gave Lupe's dad a tip. Not even on Christmas Day last year when he had to go over to his house and repair the cable. The tip jar would have to be a secret, though. Mr. Yao couldn't see it. If he saw it, he'd just take the money, like he took everything else. I wasn't even sure I wanted my parents to see it. They still didn't know about the essay contest. My mom knew. She might say I didn't stand a chance. And the last thing I needed was her telling me I couldn't do it. I hung up the phone and went to the kitchen, where I found an empty plastic jar. I taped a post-it on the front and wrote tip jar. I added some stars for good measure. I put the jar on the front desk. I decided I would only put it out when it was just me. When my parents or Mr. Yao were around, or when I was at school, I'd hide under the desk. I lifted the divider and stood back to admire the jar. It looked good there. Oh, there is the tip jar. See? Right there. Tip jar. I lifted the divider and stood back and admired the jar. It looked good there. I went out back to return Mrs. T's dictionary back to her. As I was walking across the parking lot, I noticed a couple I just checked in going up to my mom, who was walking back from one of the rooms. They were holding a camera. Excuse me, will you take a picture of us? The woman asked my mom. She grinned at her boyfriend. This is our first vacation together. Your first vacation? Your first vocation? That's great, my mom said in her broken English. Vacation, the couple corrected. Anyway, will you take our picture? Sure, my mom said, taking the camera for her. The couple showed her with which button to push, and I could tell my mom was tingling with excitement because she kept running her fingers along the zoom. Finally, a real camera. As my mom put her eye on the viewfinder, the couple hugged each other and gave her a big toothy grin. Eggplant, my mom said, except she pronounced it eggplant. The woman frowned a little. You know, it's eggplant, said the woman after my mom put the camera down. What? Eggplant, the woman said, emphasizing the T so vigorously that she was practically spitting on my mom. I could feel the heat of my mom's embarrassment from where I was standing. If you're going to say it, you should say it right. And really, you should be saying cheese. The woman said it as she walked off with her camera. My mom just stood there, looking so sad. I wanted to run up to her and tell her, hey, Ma, it's okay. I just got a C- on my English story. I know how you feel. But I knew this would not make her feel better. It would only make her feel worse. It almost made me want to do more math. Okay, so let's see. We have chapter 29, and I think we can get through this. All right, chapter 29, pretty short. Jason was back at school the next day. Oh, yes, the Jason saga. He hadn't since he hadn't been since the day in the auditorium. Awkward. Mrs. Douglas still said it was because he was sick. I felt bad and was kind of worried about him. But now seeing him in his seat glaring at me and snickering with some of the other kids, I saw he was perfectly all right. It's just a bad case of I hate Mia's. Slowly, I walked over to my desk and took a seat beside him. He and his friends stopped talking, but I could feel their eyeballs on me. I could feel them sinking into my pants. I had on a pair of these thin floral pants my mom got from Goodwill. I'll admit it, they looked like pajama pants, but they were $6.99 for a bundle of six, and you can't beat that. What a deal, my mom had squealed in the store when she spotted them. Your mom has the best shopping eyes. She had seemed so proud and so happy. I let her buy them for me, and they were pretty comfortable. But now, as my eyes slid over to the other kids, all of them in jeans, I wondered if it was a horrible mistake. I used to have jeans too. In fact, I boarded the plane in a brand new pair of jeans that my aunt bought me in Beijing, but they were too small on me now, and a new pair of jeans cost $9.99, much too expensive considering how quickly I was growing. Since coming to the motel, I had grown a full inch, a fact not lost on Mr. Yao, who motioned with his greasy fingers every time he came over. See that growth? I paid for that growth. Hmm. Hey, Mia, Jason said loudly. I looked over at him. He glanced at the other kids, who were all covering their mouths with their hands, like they were trying to hold in some terrific inside joke. How come you always wear those pants? Jason asked. Other kids exploded with laughter. I shifted my body away from them. My pants, seconds ago, so soft and comfortable, now felt scorching hot. Ignore them, Lupe said. We were sitting on the grass at recess. I glared at Jason and his friend who were sitting on the other side, cracking up and pointing at me. He'll get bored and move on to someone else, Lupe said. Somehow I doubted that, and not 5 seconds later, Jason yelled at us from across the playground. Has she not heard of jeans? Ho ho ho, Jason hollered into thunderous laughter. That's it. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, only to be pulled back down by Lupe. Ignore them, she repeated. She was being very calm about the whole thing, annoyingly calm, if you ask me. If my cousin Shen were here, he'd be over there in 2 seconds, back in China. If anybody picked on me at school, he'd go up to them and give them a piece of his mind. He didn't care who it was, even if it was his best friend, a fidgety kid with glasses named Mo. Mo always liked to go up to me and pull on my ponytail. And one time he pulled it too hard, I cried. Shen told Mo if he ever did it again, he'd pull his ear down to his butt. Oh boy. Ouch, that would hurt. Mo kept his fingers to himself after that. I tried not to think about those memories. Instead, I tried to focus on the words Lupe was saying now. She was telling me about her grandmother in Mexico and how she was sick. So her mom was sending money home. That's why money was tight for their family. I nodded as I listened, trying hard not to look down, because despite everything she was saying, Lupe was still wearing jeans. All right, now we're on to chapter 30. All right, a lot going on. We kind of went through some of those problems that we're talking about. Oh, another problem I didn't mention of all those different problems was that stolen car. They still haven't figured that one out. So we got a lot going on here. All right, and we are about, I'm going to say, halfway through. Halfway through. We're at 132, and we've got ourselves like 282 pages. So we're like right in the middle here. All right, have a good day, boys and girls.